the pace of the chasers, I don't really think it's a chase. I think it's just wanting to introduce themselves properly to the climb ahead. They're going to come through a couple of, how can I put this kindly, quite basic villages in a little while. It really is a throwback in terms of time. Apologies for the local drum beats going on at the moment. It really does sound party time here in the background, but what I'm hoping is that they don't suddenly go mobile and start a parade, because I think they will move off when the cyclists come up, in which case it's going to be a bit noisy. Just got to welcome back our British friends, so bear with us. Just over 14 kilometres to go, and we're approaching the foot of the climb. This is Eskişehir, and a lovely little place it is. Very old time, I think it's fair to say. Some of the buildings here look slightly down at heel, but they're none less impressive as that. Some pretty good wood stacks, so the boys do a good job of hacking those down in order to keep themselves warm during the winter. And it does get cold. Some of you have been noticing the winter peaks knocking around the place. Will these guys make it all the way to the top? No. 19 seconds, is that a big gap? No, it's not. Will there be some huge gaps at the end of the day? Absolutely. This one is going to hurt, Brian.
There is. This is the Queen stage, the hardest stage of the Tour of Turkey, and we've only got a small peloton left. It looks as if there's only about 50, maybe maximum 60 riders left in this peloton, led by Astana. 3 riders still in front: Pavel Brut, 33-year-old Russian for Tinkoff, 25-year-old Belgian Yeli Wallis for Top Sports, and also the Algerian 25-year-old Youssef Regigi from MTN. And they're the 3 riders up the road. 14 seconds, not a lot, as Carlton says. We're expecting fireworks later on at the top of this climb, and again there will be big gaps, but it'll be close in the end, with a few of the top riders separated only by a few seconds.
Well, we've got the local drum squad up here. You've seen them paying homage to Olympus, god of the Olympics. Yeah, it's quite a game. We're going to be playing it as well. And I'm just hoping that, I was mentioning to some of our international viewers while British you were on a break, that I'm hoping amongst hope that we, in fact, don't have a parade suddenly as the band clears ahead of these guys. If they do, then I hope it's a sort of a solemn dirge that they play, and don't beat it out, because otherwise you may not be able to hear us. That's possibly a blessing to some of you out there. Steve Guy says we're doing a great job on what he describes as a difficult race. Well, he described it slightly different to that. Matt Newman says, absolutely love this race. See, opinions vary. So, Steve, stick with it. Matt Newman says, great coverage. We're loving the vistas that we've got along the day. Big check over the shoulder as they come into this climb. This is where it begins good and proper. We just leave some of the mountain runoff zones here. You can see that they're used to carrying an awful lot more water that's on display right now. I guess they might get thirsty on this climb, but this is where the job begins.
Yeah, we're just over one bridge, heading up to the next bridge, and then the road will start to incline, and it goes up in different stages. The first part of this climb goes up about 5%, and then after about a kilometre you do get the first steep part of about 10%. You see the breakaway starting to look behind. They'll realise that you know, their breakaway has not been fruitful at all. 3 strong riders. Pavel Brut's been in this pro peloton a long time. Wallis, he has already won some good races, been on podium in some great races, and Youssef Regigi at the back there, winner of the Tour of Langkawi earlier on in the year. But with only 12 seconds, as the slope starts to rears up in front of them, it's going to be a battle to stay away. The peloton's still been led by Astana, and they're obviously thinking of trying to get that leader's jersey at the end of today's stage.
Yeah, quite clearly. Valeria Agnoli and Miguel Angel Lopez, 2 of their main contenders, who are indeed in that pushing group at the moment. As the road cuts through the limestone, really is bleached white as we get higher and higher. We get above the tree line, just as you've seen on Ventoux. Not quite as scorched as that, but nonetheless more of a feel of outdoors, as we mentioned. These three just approaching over one of the little pinch points, the bridges, as you can see. Thankfully, it has thinned down enough for them to get through these little bridges safely. But no doubt about Astana's demeanour today. They mean business, and they're doing most of the pushing. Are others passengers here?
Well, there are some passengers. There are teams rubbing their hands together and saying thank you very much, Astana. It means that we don't have to do any work whatsoever. We did have the Polish team of CCC Sprandi come up with David Rebelin, but as we come to the lower slopes now, it's Wales that is first to concede, and Regigi takes up the pace, but I don't think they'll be far in front.
No, I don't think so. 11.2 kilometres is all we've got left of the day. Thankfully, it seems that we're going to be able to stay for podiums, which is a bit of a treat. We'll see where Mark Cavendish finishes and whether he holds on to the points jersey today. I don't think it's going to be the overall, though. He's just been distanced. André Greipel is within this group, remarkably, for a sprinter, but it's about the GC guys today, and Astana, as you can see, with plenty of options. So, altogether, goes out the call on Race Radio, 10.9 kilometres to go. It does have a sudden kick in about 2K's time, where it gets to 10%, then it eases down to 3, and they must think all their Christmases have come at once, and then the kicks begin, a series of steps that really, really hurt here.
Yeah, just at the back here you can see Songizo Jim still hanging on. He was one of the riders in the original breakaway of 5 riders. Lest we forget Bandiera, Concalves, Valencia, Spokes and Jim. New King of the Mountains on the road will be the Colombian rider Valencia. I'm pretty sure he's still in this front group, but it's going to be tough for many of these riders now, as there is absolutely no downhill from here all the way to the finishing line.
Yeah, some flatter sections, as we've said, but not too many. We've got about 45-50 riders only that are going to be contending for the lead by the end of today. Good to see that Caja Rural are wearing that white jersey with honour. Luis Masbonnet it is that carries it by right. Incidentally, he's taking the beauty sprint yesterday. He's had an interest in that today, but I think he may well be wearing that. Looks like right now for Kamashev as he just heads backwards and then mobbing the road just a little bit. And what about Tinkoff Saxo on this one? Any thoughts?
Well, they have Beltran, the Colombian, and he comes here with aspirations. He's done really well in the past. He was spotted over in the races, the Tour of Utah and the type of races. So, good rider, but has he showed form over the last year or two? I don't really think he has, and he has to start trying to improve in that performance.
So, do you want to pick somebody for today?
No.
All right, well, could you please now pick somebody? I'll rephrase that. I am going to go for Zeppelveda from Breton-Sèche Environmental, although, well, no, I'm not going to qualify it. That's who I'm going to go for today.
Okay, I would think that maybe Lampre with Durasek would be a good shout. He rode well in this climb last year, but it does look as if, Caja Rural with Bilbao, Astana really riding for Lopez, the small Colombian, in their team, and also just don't count the Colombians, Avila and Milano. So it's anybody's guess. Coming into this race, it's a question mark over many of the riders' form. So we just have to kind of wait and see as we get further up the climb. We've been for a few surprises, because when we looked at it last year, Taramai was a good shout, but maybe we never thought that maybe Adam Yates would have been there, and he went on to win this race, so he kind of rode himself in, and he was there and thereabouts. So Zeppelveda is a very good shout, but it could be anywhere from the Croatian in the Lampre colours, Durasek.
Zeppelveda, the Argentine, just 23 years of age, and they're starting to kick it right now, as you can see. This is a good push by Louis Masbonnet. I don't think he's working for himself today, but CCC Sprandi, as we said, also here, and we've got Astana just thinking about kicking on right now. It's when you go for the attack, and we remind you that last year, I think the top 6 or 7 were separated by over a minute. And so it really does thin down late on. Who's got the legs to actually go long?
Well, this is what we're talking about, Carrollton. You do get to the bottom of this climb if you do have good legs. It looks as if Masbonnet, the beauty sprint leader at the start of today's stage. In fact, He never scored any points, but he will keep that jersey into tomorrow's stage, so he is the leader of that competition. So he will be on the podium at the end of today. If you do have good legs, you tend to go on the attack early on in this climb. It does level a bit in the middle, and that's where the kind of wind starts to hit you, and you can lose a lot of energy for the final 3 kilometres.
The greenery does start to disappear, albeit very late on. There are some rather spectacular views. It's a bit of a weird landscape that they're heading towards, a bit like a moonscape. Don't think Ventoux, that's sort of like Mars, isn't it? But yeah, plenty of rocks up here. Are there rocks on the moon or just dust? Not sure. 8.7 kilometres. He's smiling down upon us right now, I'm sure. Time then just to get your head sorted out. How do you approach this one, Brian, if you find yourself on your own, for instance?
Well, that's what you just have to sit in the wheels and wait for the last 3 kilometres. Masbonnet is, really going for it now. They do have other cards up their sleeves, and they're trying to make this difficult. But on your own, it is difficult to stay in front. There's still a long way to go at 8.5. Remember, it doesn't get really steep at 13% until you hit the 3 kilometres to go.
Well, that'll be in 5 kilometres time, and it's going to take us quite a while to get there. So some of the teams that you may not be familiar with going for general classification today, or at least not used to seeing up towards the 4, well, they're giving it a good go right now. It's been a longish stage, longest couple of stages that we've had, to be honest, Brian. Yesterday was over 180. That must have hurt, but this most certainly will do, even though it's shorter today.
It is. Still impressed by Andy Greipel, still in here, hanging on the back. He just pulls over now, but he gets to within 8 kilometres of the finish. Did you see that it starts to kind of steepen here up to another 8%? Masbonnet still leading the way. Behind you can see the orange jerseys of CCC Sprandi, and that's the Bulgarian champion Mihailov. It's leading the way from Schumacher and Rebellin, the third rider in the orange kit.
There we are. Just showing you how much investment they put into this race. With some of you have been very much appreciative of the helicopter shots that we've had. We were able to dispatch 1 or 2 as well. And look at this. You want a teammate? Have a teammate. Kaya Roral. The climbing has begun, and at least at this point 7.4%, as you can see. That's not the average over the whole run, incidentally. It's a little bit more than that. It peaks right at the very last at about 11%, and that's going to feel like heaven compared to some of the hellish sections that they're dealing with. And André Greipel continues his push for form, I guess you might say. Agnoli doing well earlier on today, but just being found out right now, which is something of a surprise that he's faded so early. 7.6 Ks to go. Yeah, André Greipel had a good run through the Ardennes, of course, and some of the classics earlier on in this, the past month or so. He's on that sort of little rest-up time right now, recovery time before he goes for the Giro. So, yeah, good test for him. But the test right now is for these guys. Wanty Group Gobert, who've they got for us today, Brian?
Well, looking at the front of the peloton, that's Sauvagy, it looks like. But the rider on the right-hand side, Para, for Cajarual. Just behind him in the orange, you've got Rebellin right up there near the front of the peloton. The rider that was involved with the attacks is McCarthy for the Tinkoff team. No reaction there, but another acceleration from Para, from Cajarual, followed by Rebellin, who does look good following every attack that is made from the young Colombian.
Para's diminutive figure, Sauvagy absolutely enormous. He's so rangy. And this looks like Durasek having a think about this, just I guess trying to police those who are going up the road in case they have a turn of speed and distance everybody. It's going to happen, it's just a question of when.
Yeah, still 7.3 to go. The hardest part of the climb comes further up, and this is where we in about a kilometre time it start to ease off ever so slightly, and the wind will be in the rider's face. But it's Rebellin and Para, the Colombian, for Cajarual, and the green just behind, and it does look as if it's Durasek of the Lamprey team.
Nick Wilkins, we've still got time to talk to some of you on Twitter, by the way. It's at Carlton Kirby or Bryce Smithy, BRISMITHY. If you hashtag home recycling, it goes to everybody. Yeah, great scenery, says Nick Wilkins. One of my favourite stages of the year. I think we could probably say that for ourselves as well, Brian.
Yeah, fantastic stage, great backdrop, and a really supportive crowd right at the top, with so many locals just enjoying the party atmosphere. I'm not going to say it's going to be a party for these guys, but certainly at the top it is for the spectators.
Yeah, it's time to suffer for some out there. Drapac have been reasonably busy today. That looked like Adam Phelan, who was just going backwards out of the bunch, which is ever diminishing as we speak. And look at this. This is a proper turn of pace.
Yeah, now getting involved is the riders from Bardiani in the lime green, just behind Jay McCarthy, the Australian rider. This is the attack here. So Vaji, the tall, lanky figure in the blue, just behind. So no big reactions. You can see Lotto Sudal still have Adam Hansen in the group behind. 6.8 kilometres to go, and plenty of attacks.
Yeah, there are. This is nice to see. Is it Barbin who's going for this? I thought it would be Battaglin or Colbrelli, to be honest, but he's a good sentinel to have up the road, Enrico Barbin. And the little guy has decided that he's going to try and bridge over to these boys. This may well be the formation of what is our winning move right now. It's hard to declare it so early on, but with 6.7 kilometres to go and so much punishing terrain, I guess it, as we mentioned earlier, it's whether you've got the legs at the bottom of the climb that counts at this point, but can you sustain it throughout? It's a nasty series of steps. It's hard to set a rhythm, isn't it, because of that?
It is. In the past in this climb we've seen some attacks that never really succeeded this far out because of the steepness of the climb in the last few kilometres. But we do have a Rebelline at the front with Para from Kaharuao, and just with them also is the rider Jurasek from Lamprey. Thinning out small peloton, or what we're going to call this a peloton, with Barbin and McCarthy just behind them.
Good work, a lot of you. As I love this race, watch it every year, says Paul Stebbings. Must come over next time. Paul, you need to make the trip. It's a beautiful part of the world. Somebody earlier on saying I'd mixed up mint tea with sage tea, mixing my herbs. No, it really was a sage flower. It got no mint in it, and absolutely delicious it was too. I'm going to try and buy some fresh sage flowers to take home with me if I'm allowed to bring them back to the UK. 6.2 kilometres then, and it's 14 seconds, and those who've reached out are now perhaps regretting they've grabbed hold of something that is very, very prickly, I'm afraid, and it is this climb. We said it's hard to set a rhythm as the drumbeat of the local band start to beat out. I think they are going to parade by us, so just bear with us if we get deafened. It's loud down the bottom of the mountain as well in terms of their legs. They're doing a good job. 6 to go, Brian. 19 seconds now, the gap.
There is, so state of play at the moment is Rebelline and Jurasek at the front. They did have Para from Kaharuao. He's just been distanced by the riders in the front. Barbin is the rider at the back in the lime green. McCarthy is with him, the young Australian rider for Tinkoff. Then we have the what's left of the peloton, led by Orica Green Edge, and that's Christian Meyer.
So they start to weave as the road indeed itself snakes, still within tree cover at this point. They will leave the arbs behind, the arboreal terrain, and the disco's coming through, so just forgive us for a moment. In fact, it's a mobile nut seller. Somebody needs to move him and his walnuts further on down the road, I'm afraid. I may send Brian out. He is reasonably scary at situations such as this. Could you give him a glare, Brian, please? He's doing it right. He's doing it right now. Oh, and they're throwing goodies to the crowd. And as they bounce off heads, they scurry for them. It looks like they're handing out white sharks. Not quite sure about that. There are great whites in this part of the world, but thankfully they've got more than enough fish to be troubled giving you a nibble. 5.5 kilometres then, Jurasek and Rebelin. This is starting to liven up here, Brian, good and proper.
Yeah, still 5.4 kilometres to go, striking out very early, and Rebelline and Jurasek are leading the way. Jurasek is the second of the riders at the front in the pink and the blue for Lamprey. Para was a rider who initially went on the attack. He was just distanced ever so slightly, starting to struggle a bit on this climb, but then we have a duel behind with Barbin and McCarthy.
Just under 5 kilometres to go. 20 seconds is the gap. Doesn't sound like much, but on a climb like this, that could be a winning margin. I think you'll probably be able to throw a blanket, if you like, albeit a very, very large one, over the winners today. I think the top 5 will be separated by about 35 to 40 seconds by the end, and then it's really going to spin back. It's a climb that in the past has been a huge test, and it seems that some believe they are well and truly up to it. I like the look of Barbin. He looks nice and relaxed.
He is. Both himself and McCarthy are just hanging in between at this moment. It did look as if that was Cameron Mayer, who had been distanced from this peloton.
And Battaglin, Brian, as the disco rolls through once again. Apologies for that. This time they're throwing crackers. It was Enrico Battaglin who looked a bit second-hand, so Barbin has taken a big step forward as the chosen man. Battaglin going backwards. He would have been one of those we'd picked for today.
He's can ride over lumps. This is a bit too difficult for him. He packs a good sprint come the end. He's won a stage of the Giro d'Italia, getting over a couple of climbs, but I think this climb is going to be a little bit too difficult for the likes of Battaglin. But you can just see McCarthy for Tinkoff and Barbin for Bardiani, just about to catch Para, the Colombian, for Carual. The rider that initially went on the attack was dropped by Rebellin and Jurasek, who are 23 seconds in front of them now.
Jay McCarthy looking nice and feisty at the moment. He's spinning up a good cadence, as you can see. He's dispatching with some of the nasty inclines that we've already had very quickly. This is a bit of a kick you've got going on right now, but they'll just get to the next flatter section of 3% in quite short order, and then there's a long period of about 1.8 where it really does hurt. And then it gets very, very nasty at the end of that reach of 7%. It goes to 13 and 20% within that little probably 200-300 meters. There are some nasty turns which you will see. 3.7 kilometers only until the line. McCarthy, Barbin and Para are the chasers for the time being, but I think they look strong.
The duo in front looks strong, Rebellin and Jurasek. Only got a thinned out group here now. 2 riders in there from Astana. Then you got Serge Pauwels also in there. Megias for the Novo Nordisk. Cano of the Columbia team. Adam Hansen is still there for Lotto Soudal, and Sepulveda for Britain Sech.
MTN Quebec are yet again managing to get themselves, at least in our thoughts at the end of the day, success in the offing, do you think, today?
I think experience is counting here. Serge Pauwels has been on the attack earlier on in this climb in previous occasions and really suffered in the last few kilometres. So I think he's kind of sitting back waiting for the last 3 kilometres, but they're already 45 seconds behind, and that's a lot to make up in the last few kilometres. Also in this group, 207 at the back for the Turku 3rd Division team, and that's Marcinski.
Sepulveda was also in there, the Argentine, who was my pick for today, looking like he's just ever so slightly been found out, perhaps. Just looking at Mas Bonnet as well, and just check this out. It's as if the good Lord dropped a piece of cooked spaghetti on the mountaintop and said, that's your road. The easiest way through, as if you could ever describe this as easy. There's one of those hairpins we were talking about.
Yeah, it starts here just after 3 kilometres. You can see the boards now. It starts to get really tough if it hasn't been tough already. We have got Rebellin in front in the orange for CCC Sperandi, followed with Jurasek from the Lampre team. Then we've got this trio of McCarthy from Tinkoff, just heading the nose of this trio. 71 is Barbin of Bardiani, and at the back, the initial attacker on this climb was the Para, the young Colombian with the Cajaru Alteo. They look back to the left, they'll see what remains of the peloton. In that group is Cano of Colombia, Hansen, Lotto Soudal, Sepulveda of Breton Sech, and Serge
further up was Sepulveda that we're talking about. That's number 207, Thomas Mashinsky, starting off as one of the pre-race favourites. Not going to be him today. He's fading, and as soon as you get detached from a group like that, Brian, the mountain eats you, doesn't it?
It does. He went really on the attack like most of these Colombians do, and he was under a lot of pressure, got dropped, but I think he's got his second breath now. And I just noticed that in this following group at 54 seconds, just coming off the back now, is Daniel Errato. And, you know, that's an excellent ride for him. Just in front, you see the Wanty Group Gobert rider, that's Selvaggi. So it's Sepulveda, Serge Pauls, Cano for Colombia, and Adam Hansen. You can just see the three riders in front, and this is where it gets really, really tough.
Time to make a big pickup, and it's Adam Hansen that's just trying to cope, frankly. And on some of the more testy inclines, Brian, it is about your coping cadence. You forget about following anybody, to be honest. It's just getting the job done.
Oh, this is it. You have to really, you know, just set your own rhythm. This is probably the hardest part of the climb now. The last few kilometres, they've already been climbing hard at a hard tempo, and you can just see the difference. This group, which was about 8 or 12 riders, have just blown apart.
Sepulveda has found a little bit of acceleration, and I think now it's his moment to go for it. He's picking it up, but he's got the none too small matter of trying to chase these guys. McCarthy, Barbin and Para are the chasing group right now, and he's just about to bridge over to them. That was a big push by Sepulveda. He's on the grind, and he's looking like he's got something left at hand here.
Yeah, he does look as if he's got a bit of punch in his legs. He does have the carrot of these three riders in front, Para, McCarthy and Barbin. Barbin looks to be struggling now. This is what we're saying earlier on in this climb. If you waste a lot of energy and you really go into the red in this part of the climb, if you saved a bit, it looks as if Sepulveda has, you've saved that wee bit, then you do have a bit of energy to struggle over these last couple of kilometres.
Come on, Adam, get yourself up this mountain. Stay in contention. But the gaps are going to be huge. Sepulveda bridges to that group and just goes straight by. He's a very powerful and rangy character. And this, well, the line is within range, only 2.3 kilometres away. Job not finished yet, though.
Yeah, Rebelline just takes a drink here for CCC. Sprandi, Jurasek, they have been in front for a long, long period of time. The gap is coming down, 36 seconds to the group behind, now being led by Sepulveda of Breton Sèche.
Rebelline, one of the pre-race favourites, 43 years of age, we remind you. This is a much younger man, gives away 20 years. He has 20 years to the good, I think it's fair to say. How good is he? Well, you're finding out right now. He's spinning it up very well. 35 seconds, though, is a big gap with only 2Ks to go.
Yeah, you got to remember at the finishing line there's absolutely no time bonuses this year, so if whoever crosses the line first will take that leader's jersey. So it's going to be a battle between the top two of Rebelline and Jurasek. Looking at the time gaps at this moment, 34 seconds back to Sepulveda.
Sepulveda is the star turn for the time being, but has he waned already because he's left it too late? We're going to find out at the top of this mountain. Serge Pauls suffering for MTN Quebec. These guys are gunning for minor places and maybe the right to fight on another day. This is McCarthy, Barbin and Para, as you can see. This was the group that was bridged over to by Sepulveda, and he's on the chase. And this is his quarry right now, this duo. Look just down the mountain and you'll see him just come into vision, will you? Not quite. I think it may well be between these two. And Rebelline, badged up as hot favourite at the top of the day, and indeed at the top of this race, looks comfortable. Come on, do some work, says Jurasek, for goodness sake. I'm not going to drag you up here all on my own.
Yeah, difficult finish, and to me Rebelline looks as if he's slightly in the ropes now. Jurasek does look the freshest of the two. I'm still sticking with my man Jurasek of winning this stage today, but Sepulveda is coming up, but not fast enough. 1.7 to go. You can just see Sepulveda from Breton Sèche, 32 seconds behind. Isn't enough. He did come up with some speed, starting to suffer now, but back to the others, it's 52 seconds already.
Jurasek from Lampe Marina, Rebelline here from CCC, Sprandi Polkovici in the orange. A man of 43 years, don't forget. So if it's between these two, the money has to be on Christian Jurasek. We had to prize a prediction out of Brian Smith. He went for Jurasek some way out. I went for the man who's chasing them down, Sepulveda. but it looks like Sepulveda, as we've said, has left it a bit too late. There is a little zone of respite. He's got to re-find it. He's gone white. He's thrown a whitey. His visage is almost as bright as the white rocks that grates this part of the world, and he feels like he's working on each and every one of them with only 1,400 metres to go.
Body language tells a tale there, and he just looked behind, and he looked behind to see where the other riders were. That means that Sepulveda has made an acceleration, but he's starting to pay for it now. He's now thinking, the first two places have gone. He's now thinking that, how can I hang on to this third place?
How can I hang on, and how can I limit the damage as others hear little bomblets going off all over this mountain? And I'm afraid you never know quite when you're going to go pop, and Para has done exactly that. This is a brave push by Sepulveda, but he's on his own at the moment as these two guys get out of the saddle. It's going to be Revelan versus Durasek for the line. 1.1 kilometres to go. The toughest sections have been dispatched with, but there's still a nasty old kick towards the line, isn't there?
We're talking about kicks. This is the first kick now for the win of the stage, and it was Durasek that decided to go. He distanced Revelan ever so slightly. Revelan using all his experience now to hang on to Durasek. Durasek does look the strongest of the two, but Revelan is the most experienced.
Sepulveda still detached from these guys. I wonder whether he will be there at the end, Sepulveda, the Argentine. He's in no man's land at the moment while these two start to think about victory. And I guess doing enough work to be in the right place, but also not burning too much so late on, Brian. It's a difficult call.
It is a difficult call because it is really, really steep in the last 200 metres here, and so you have to save a little bit for that sprint. And it does look as if Durasek and Revelan are starting to play a little bit of a game, and it's actually playing into the hands of Revelan, because I think if Durasek just accelerated another couple of times, he could in fact put some distance into Revelan.
Yeah, well, I've got a feeling he might well engage the kick very late on. Revelan looks like he's at the end of his resources, but out the saddle he comes and just starts to bounce nicely, Contador style, as you can see. Although a bigger man, of course, it'll be a huge result for him as well at the end of this career. They just look over there, you can see the finish line almost temptingly close, Brian. Who's going to reach out?
Yeah, and it's still probably about 3 minutes away, in fact, such is it. I'm still sticking with Durasek. He does look at the, as I say, freshness of both of them. Revelan using all his experience, just sitting behind, allowed Durasek to distance himself a little bit, but come back to the wheel, sitting alongside. A flick of the elbow by Durasek. Looks as if they're slowing down. Revelan doesn't want to lead this one out. He wants to just sit on the wheel. You just see a kind of slight headwind at this moment in time. Durasek looking behind to see what the damage anybody is coming up behind. Sepulveda still hanging on to that third place. Serge Pauwels now for MTN Quebec in fourth, with the others just falling away. 500 metres, it's going to take a long time. The man with the mask and the flag could do with getting out of the way. We've had a lot of respect from the fans, incidentally, along the way today. Surprised that Durasek didn't just try and take Revelan over to the side of the road. Just a whiff of that. Camera bikes need to get out of the way as well. The last few curves right now, nobody wants to have their rhythm disturbed, and right now they are in a whole world of pain. This is that last section that Brian was talking about that really does kick up as you go to the finish line. It's almost cruel. Now, what's going to be the gap back to Sepulveda? Don't forget that Adam Yates' really gutsy performance last year as he closed down on Tara Bay to give himself a chance of victory, which he ultimately took on the second climbing day. And this is great push by Sepulveda here. He's coming to that section. Oh, and this time Christian Durasek goes for it, but Revelan's good for that marker, at least for the time being. They're coming to the hoarded section. It's still not over by a long way. Not over at all, and Revelan just sitting behind. He does pack a bit of a sprint. He knows the last 200 metres really rears up. Durasek really has to keep the pressure on. He does look as if he could be the winner of today, but it's still open here. Revelan, never discount him.
Well, 50-50 for the time being. Revelan out of the saddle. Is he going to find a little bit of pace? He's now looking up the road, almost assassin style. It's what Chris Froome does when he's not looking at the stem, and you know that he's about to press the go button. Will it be now? And indeed, how much power has he got? Cat and mouse, side by side. Revelan drifts over to the right-hand side of the road, picks up the pace. Durasek tries to get on his wheel. Durasek can't stay with him. Revelan is extending his lead. He's going to take the day. Oh, clever stuff. Very, very clever stuff. Rebellin comes to the line. He's our victor. And now the count back for the gap begins. Oh, look at that. It's going to be 5 seconds. Who'd have believed that with 60 meters to go? And now we look for this man, Sepulveda. Now, has he done enough to be a challenger later on? Certainly it looks that way. Some huge gaps today and a very brave effort by this man.
Brave effort. He did go on the attack with about 3 kilometres to go when we got onto the hardest part of this climb. He was about 40 odd seconds behind. Does look as if he's made a few seconds up, but he cracked a wee bit. He got to within about 30 seconds of the duo in front, never made it, and it looks as if in the last few hundred metres he's losing absolutely more time. He's going to be over 40 seconds to Sepulveda. Good enough for a podium place, a great effort, great win by David Rebellin, rode it well. Experience counted in the end when the Lamprey rider Jurasek did look as if he was the strongest in front.
48 seconds. Now, we said a minute would separate the top 5. It wasn't a bad guess. There we are. We passed that marker now with 100 meters to go. Goodness me, this mountain takes prisoners, and you can see how they're rocking and rolling just trying to get to the end. That was Barbin struggling like a newspaper delivery boy on a testy hill. He looks under his arm, and these guys come to the line with a great deal to be proud of, but also, unfortunately, a great big gap to our leader, David Rebellin.
4th place for McCarthy, the young Australian. 5th place for Serge Pauls. But a great ride here by Daniel Erato, not renowned for his climbing ability, for United Healthcare.
Wow, good effort. Very, very good effort by the United Healthcare rider. And now a well-deserved drink for this man, David Rebellin.
Adam Hansen now coming up to the line to finish, almost 2 minutes behind. Silvaggi for Awante Group Gobert. So yeah, big time gaps. You can just see all the salt marks on the riders. They've had a hard day out there. It's only been 165 kilometres, but the speed that they've ridden this course at, and especially this last climb, has left a few people wanting.
Marshinsky gives away over 2 minutes, Brian, one of the pre-race favourites.
A lot of riders losing a lot of time today, and just see coming up now is Masbonnet. Such a difficult finish. In fact, there was no sprint in the end. They rode side by side until about 100 metres to go, and Rebellin decided to go for it, probably just close to 50 metres to go, and puts about 3 seconds into Jurasek in the end. Jurasek did look comfortable, but the experience of Rebellin led the way in the end.
Masbonnet with the beauty sprints, and You Beauty comes across the line and does a fantastic job. Oric at green edge as well here, more than represented by a very, very feisty Canadian, Christian Meyer, who comes across the line as well. Goodness me, Brian, we said it was going to be a tough test, and so it proved, but the pre-race favourite has delivered.
He was one of the pre-race favourites. He did come in with some reasonably good form, but he used his experience there. They're going to have a hard time trying to hold on to that lead a couple of difficult days to come. So we'll see what prevails for CC Sprandi over the next few days.
Well, it'll be much quicker going down the mountain. This was how Rebellin picked it up at the last.
Yeah, it was just over 100 metres to go, and I don't think he could believe it, because I think he was thinking that Jurasek had a kick in him. Jurasek did try something with just over 1 kilometre to go, then led the whole way. Rebellin just stayed there, waited. We did say in the last few hundred metres, Rebellin does pack a good sprint come the end, and he proved that and puts 3 seconds into Jurasek. So he'll now lead this race by in fact, he'll lead this race by 7 seconds in the end.
Well, it's going to be a long time before all the riders get to the top of the mountain, so a lot for us to consider. Tomorrow it's a sort of a rolling stage, Brian. I think this man would have hoped to have done better today. I was very impressed with Sepulveda.